Hello coders, welcome to another YouTube tutorial. Last time we spoke about business logic layer. Today we are talking about data access layer. This is our first tutorial about data access layer. Today I will show you how to connect to the database. So let's get started. So there are two dependencies that you are supposed to add. I showed you how to add a dependency on the first tutorial, and in this tutorial we can go to form file, then we add two dependencies here. So we add MySql dependence and a Spring Data JPA dependence. So add this dependence in your pom file. These dependencies, we will use it to connect to MySql database, and we will use JPA to persist our data. I will show you on the next lecture when we are starting to persist our user into our database. So for now, just add these two dependencies. After you added these dependencies, if you try to run you can click this muffin first to sync your dependencies, or go here and click this refresh button, then it will download the dependencies. Then let's try to run. If you try to run this one, we'll start to get an error of data source. As you can see, failed to configure data source URL attribute. So we have to add this. Also here we can configure this URL in our application YAML in this file. You can add this configuration as with a Java class or the YAML file. So on this tutorial, I'm going to teach you how to connect to the database through adding it to your YAML file. So what do we need? Which configurations do we need to connect to the database? So the configurations, we must add in MySql and JPA. So we have the Spring data source, where we have our class name, driver class name, and we have a URL. The URL to connect to the database is either your local database or a remote database, which is on MySql, a cloud database, and a database, a username and password. So let me share with you these configs. So these are the details that you need to connect to the database. So this is the data source, and we have, as you can see, it failed to run because of the data source. So this one, it was searching for this attribute, which is Spring data source. In data source, we have driver class name, which is MySql driver. If it's a Postgres driver, you add the class name for the Postgres, and we have a URL which you connect to the database. So we start with JDBC, then MySql. Here we put the URL. So my database is running on my local, and the port 3306. Create database if it's not exist, and this one is the name of the database, the demo. So I can say it Spring tutorial. This is the name of the database. So if it does not exist, it will create it. Then other things these are just parameters, don't worry about them, just add. These are the basic and these are the important ones. So you can connect to an existing database or create it if it does not exist. Then this is my username and this is my password. So for JPA, we want Spring to create tables based on the classes. So with the different strategies. So for JPA, we can add also JPA configurations in same line with data source Spring. You can see Spring data source, Spring JPA, generate DDL. This is allows us to create DDLs and show SQL queries when we are pulling data using JPA. You'll be able to see the queries that are being invoked by Spring, and type of database is MySql. If it's Postgres, you can add Postgres. Then Hibernate. For Hibernate with this DDL auto update. So if the table is already there, it will update. If you add new fields, it will update with the new fields. Then naming strategy, keep it to improved naming strategy, and the dialect that we are going to use, it's MySQL 5.7 dialect. So these are the configs that you need to connect to the database. Let's test now if we are able to connect to the database. We are not supposed to see any error. No, our application started successfully, no error now. Let's try to put a wrong password and see if the configs are working correctly. Let's run the application again. Yeah, you can see there's an error. It failed to connect to the database. So our application is working correctly. These are the configs that you need to connect to the database. Thank you guys for watching this YouTube tutorial. Now you are able to connect to MySql database with Spring Boot. It's easy. Only these configurations that you have to add, and also these two dependencies. Thank you guys for watching this YouTube tutorial. Let's meet you in the next video. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe if you're new to this channel, and click the notification bell to get updates of the latest tutorials whenever we upload a new video. Salut coders.